Short Rest, a show where we talk all things Dungeons and Dragons. Today we're bringing in Max Morin, who played in our latest Iron Valor episode, or I should say our very first Iron Valor episode. The premier Iron Valor episode. We're going to talk about the homebrew class that he played. I know a lot of people had a lot of comments about that in the chat. They're like, what's Bastion? So we're going to talk about that. I am apparently going to be revealing all my secret tools that I use to create the living world that we'll be playing in on Fate's End. I wanted to list more resources, but Daniel had to cut me off because I do have like an entire bookmark folder of just resources that I use. But I picked some of my favorites. I'm going to be talking to you guys about that. So let's get in. Oh, what are we drinking? We're drinking like we're supposed to this time, right?
That's right. So today I am drinking. It's August, which it starts with AU, which means autumn, which means this is Oktoberfest in Alabama. So I don't know if it's on shelves everywhere, but where we are, the Oktoberfest is back, and it's fall, y'all.
I love the Oktoberfest.
It's fall.
Hopefully, fall brings good things.
Mm-hmm.
I am drinking a gin Ricky. So, yes, very delicious, very delightful reference.
I hope there are no terms of service used for drinking hard liquor on Twitch.
Drink responsibly.
Let's hope.
So let's get into announcements, Daniel.
Yes, announcements. First things first, thank you to everyone who is here, who has been following us, who watched Iron Valor last Wednesday night. It was a tremendous success by our standards. We're very, very thankful to all of you, and we have posted the Iron Valor how to play over on our Patreon for free.
Yes.
You can go get that. It's completely free to anyone who goes see it. Patreon.com/InkandLyre. It'll be the first post you see. In there, you're going to get how to play for how to set up and bring your players that are in a current campaign to an arena, how you can introduce it so that it makes sense in your world, how to set the easiest way to set up your magic items and your monsters, and some really cool tricks there as far as the way we're setting up and with us. And then if you're playing it the way we are, which is just a single kind of whiteboard Iron Valor session, then you're going to see our character creation rules. So for those of you who don't know, when you're watching Iron Valor, we're making characters in a way that is balanced for 5th edition because the game is not designed for PvP. And because of that, we have made some rule changes.
Adjustments.
Yes, but all of those have been posted, and you can see them. They're very simple. It's 8 little rules. I think 5 of them are character creation, and the others are really just simplification rules for things like stealth and hiding and all that fun stuff. Speaking of free items, Lauren.
Yes, so that we want to remind everyone that on our Patreon, we actually have a ton of free items, not just the rules that we just released yesterday.
Usually about once a month, maybe twice a month, we'll release something free.
I don't know about twice a month, but
at least once.
Yeah, but we do have a ton of free items over there that you guys can grab. We have a free encounter that we released, I think, back in March. Awesome encounter. Our encounters basically include an entire story arc with flavor text, maps that you can use for the story. Also some monsters that we put in there, just like the whole little package where you can use, and it's free. We also have some curated playlists. We have a free sorcerer origin that we collabed with.
Spell component.
And
Spell.
I thought Luke, but I was like, they're not going to know who Luke is.
No,
I was trying to remember his username.
Sure.
But we did a collab with him, and that's also free. And then if you would like to patronize us, we have tons of magic items, homebrew spells, subclasses, location modules, and other adventure modules and encounters. For just $3 a month, you get access to all of that. And we appreciate that, and it helps produce shows like this and the rest of the content.
It's true. We have been very bad content creators our first 2 shows. At no point have we asked anyone to follow us or anyone to go to our Patreon. So
we didn't do that on Iron Valor in the very first episode.
Completely
of Short
forgot.
Rest.
Just spaced.
We didn't do subscribe thing.
Yeah, but if you're watching, you can follow us here.
Ring
go to
the
our
bell.
Patreon, all that fun stuff. But yes, we're going that. Speaking of which, we want the engagement from you guys on Twitch, as we always do. So today we're talking about homebrew classes a lot with our good friend Max, as he played one. So in the chat as we're running through, if you want to tell us about homebrew classes you have made or any kind of adjustments.
There are subclasses that are.
Yeah, or subclasses you made that you played in your game. You want to tell us about them. We're going to react to those in the show, and that's in our mailbag segment. So go ahead and put those in the chat, and we'll talk about those as we get going. So let's begin with really what I kind of think is the most interesting thing we're going to talk about today, which is starting a campaign and running the sessions as a DM, right? So Lauren, you're running, Bates in, we're going to have 6 people there. And there is so much prep and work that has to be done in order to make the world feel real, right? So we know that there are certain tools of the trade that DMs use, and you're going to tell us about what those, or tell everyone what those are about today. So
I'm going to talk about some of my favorites. It's very hard to narrow it down because like huge bookmark on my browser.
Yes, currently we are not sponsored by any of these people, and you may have seen on some of our content some stuff from Incarnate and some of those other tools that we use for map purposes. But these are like world building tools and things that we use or that Lauren uses in order to get into it. So start us off. What is
I feel like map is a whole category.
It probably
right?
is.
It's like
probably
another category. I didn't include map generation.
So tell us about Kassoon. This is www.kassoon.com, and we're going to kind of show you a quick shot of what that might look like.
So I use the Kassoon website for wilderness travel generation and trap generation. He does have a Patreon, or the individual who creates this content. This is the first one that I kind of wanted to show you. My personal favorite is the wilderness travel generator. I have used this so many times. I maybe this is just a me thing, but I like rolling for weather, especially when you're not in like a forest or you're in like a swampland or a desert, which in our redemption campaign, we were in a swamp and we were in the desert. And I think at one point, you guys were in a swamp area, and and it was the summer.
Yeah, we had some hydration issues. So how does this little website work? Like,
yeah.
how does it function?
So what you're looking at now is the wilderness travel generator, which I love. So you can choose the biome, you can choose the season that you're currently in, and then you can generate that travel based on what you input. So you like, and these are suggestions too. Like if they suggest like an afternoon or evening encounter while you're traveling, you can definitely do that, or you could just skip over that entirely. But these are all great suggestions. My favorite is like weather and temperature, and like, is it snowing? And then how would I impact that? Like if it's really windy, I would impose disadvantage checks on my player's perception, because it's so windy you might not hear bandits sneaking in the woods.
So we're giving mechanical challenges, environmental challenges to players based on this weather, making it difficult terrain or heavily obscured, lightly obscured conditions everywhere, right?
Exactly. Like, my goal is to make travel more interesting, and this is really nice. Another thing that he includes is like possible sights you might see, and seeing that and generating it. How can I create a story around that my players are going to interact with? So, in this example, it is like a corpse of trees growing in a single spot on an otherwise barren mountain. Unbeknownst to the world, it is a burial place of great wizard and earthen magics. It is watched over by a trio of stone golems and a handful of slumbering treants to guard the immense knowledge held within the tomb. That's a fun little like mini arc that you could take your players through. Again, you don't have to, but these are all great suggestions. Another interesting thing is like foraging. Potentially like having your druid or ranger go out and bring back food based on their roles there, which is really interesting.
Yeah,
too.
if you're going to play a very survival based game and you're going to use encumbrance and you're going to track rations and inventory, this is something there's so much meat here.
Oh yeah.
In this tool. So because when you're running a game like that, sometimes you just there's so much stuff that needs to be written out. You just don't have the time. So generating one of these real quick gives you all this information. You can pull from it directly, makes it really easy to run that type of game. And if you have those type of players, it's going to be really, really good for you.
And it also makes suggestions too in harsh conditions. So like you don't see it in this particular example, but there, like I was saying in a previous campaign session, I had rolled like, oh God, it was like 113 or 118 like temperature weather.
Yeah,
and it said
ridiculous.
Underneath, like, you take exhaustion every hour if you don't drink water or so much water and stuff. And I know that's really detailed, and some DMs are like, oh, that's just too much, it's too detailed, but I love that stuff.
Yeah,
I love that stuff.
Tell us about the trap generator that's associated with this too.
Yes. So this individual, he has now. If you go to his website, he has a ton of stuff that you can click through. These are the tools that I use mainly. This is another great one on his site that he has. Is you can do a trap generation. You can pick the level. You can pick if it's just like a minor encumbrance. It's not going to necessarily kill your player, but it might be, they're poisoned for 10 minutes or something. But you can choose like if it's dangerous, if it's deadly, or if it's just an encumbrance, and then you can roll for that. The nice thing about this is I love that he includes countermeasures. So if your party is investigating the area and they succeed on that investigation check, they're able to detect that presence. Because sometimes if you do a trap generator, you don't know, okay, what should the check be on that? Should it be a 10? Should it be a 15?
Absolutely. And we made a trap generator. If you're on our Patreon, we released
and that was free.
Yeah, we released a trap generating PDF over on our Patreon, and we're telling you that we use this. So this is it's just that good. It's something that is really useful and really helpful, especially if you're building large dungeons. And you can run through it multiple times, take your favorite idea, and then really kind of build your world the way you want to. Especially if you're looking for inspiration, if you've been through the many sessions and you're just trying to get to the next one.
Yeah,
and build out your world.
And again, it doesn't show it here, but it also talks about destroying traps when you use the generator. So you might get, many bottles, or, you might get like resources from it as well if you have a party that's really into crafting. And then it also has checks for like if it's a trap that's made out of stone or iron, how high the AC is. So one of my favorite generators to use when the party is getting kind of cocky in the dungeon and they're like, oh, this is easy. I'm like,
well, we got this. And then all of a sudden,
it was with Dylan. All of a sudden, he didn't see the trap that I had put there, and it was like it was a giant log that just descended and just
smashed him in the chest.
sent him flying. Anyways,
crazy. All right, so that's it for Kassoon. You can find that at Kassoon.com. It's also on Patreon. You can generate those resources, and they're really, really cool. Another Patreon.
Yes, and you said he had a Patreon.
Yeah, did?
Okay, yes. He has a Patreon as well. Great resource.
Another Patreon account, and another one that we use, actually is a patron of ours, and we're a patron of theirs, is a 5E Magic Shop.
Yes.
Over on Patreon, a wonderful resource. Tell us about that.
Yes, so let me show you guys that one next. I use, I think, 3 things on his in my list. I have. But yeah, so this first one is a travel calculator. Again, it's very situational based on the kind of DM that you are. I like to know how long it's going to take for my players to travel between one city to another city. And I mean, I've never walked that distance. I know what a car ride to, places are how long that's going to take. But I love this travel calculator. I use it a lot because there's so many times during our sessions where my players are like, all right, we're going to go to this area. How long is it going to take us to get there? And I don't know that off the top of my head.
And I think what really this is beneficial for is consistency. Because I think oftentimes we're running D&D games and you're trying to judge distances and how long things should take. And sometimes it's easy for us as humans to just mess up. And so if you're using something like this, you can always maintain that consistency of travel time. So things don't so that things don't get mismatched. And all of a sudden it takes you a week and a half to travel 500 miles, but then it takes you 2 days to do 250.
But it also gives that value to if your party buys a horse and cart. Okay, am I going to get any speed benefit from that if I have a horse and cart? And like, if you look, you can see like what mountain vehicle are you using, and it's calculated. The distance is calculated by how fast and what supplies that you have. So if you have a pony, or if you have like a Clydesdale, there's a variety of options within that list. I love how detailed it is, and it just, at a click of a button, you can tell your players, okay, it's going to take you 8 hours, or it's going to take you days to get to this village or town or what have you.
So what else do they have?
All right, my next tool that I use from him. Oh, there we go. All right, so this is a huge one, and this is a new one for me. This is a new tool that I am going to be used rigorously.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah.
I haven't seen this before, but this is really cool.
Yes, this is a new tool that I'm going to start using definitely for Fate's End, just to keep myself in check. So many times my players have used detect magic, and I'm like, I have no clue what aura this magic item has. I have no clue, and I have no idea what color it's supposed to be or what it's supposed to, because there's 8 different schools of magic, right? 8, is it 8?
Yes.
8. And I have no idea. So this is great for 2 reasons. One, because as a DM, you want to give your players, like, they're using detect magic, they're using that spell slot, and detect magic, that using up that spell slot, that can be like kind of sad, like, I'm using another spell slot. But you want to reward your player with a beautiful description of what this aura might look like, and then also, of course, the correct class of magic for the item.
And I think it's a really, really good storytelling technique. When you're telling stories, oftentimes you want to give familiar things that make sense. You don't, every now and then you can go off type, and someone who is mismatched from a personality standpoint to the way they face the world is a good thing to drop. But when you're talking about magic items, and when something does fireball damage, it should give off the evocation aura.
Like traces of magic.
Yeah, and if you maintain consistency between the types of auras and the colors of auras and the types of the way things are perceived by the party, what you can tell the players what they're dealing with without specifically saying it. And that familiarity with what they're looking at is really, really good, and it's going to enhance your story, make the whole thing more immersive. And even if they don't have detect magic, even if they don't have this, if they know what the colors represent, they make it wonderful.
Oh yeah, definitely. The other thing I do want to mention about this magic aura reference. So if you do patronize him, I think his lowest is $3.
Worth it.
Totally. Oh yeah. We patronize him. The lowest is like $3 a month, I think. And on his site, you can actually type in any magic item. So if you type in alchemy jug, it will tell you the aura for alchemy jug.
That magic item should give off this particular school.
Yeah, so like it's even more beneficial in that case as well. If you are in the middle of a dungeon, you rolled on a loot table, and you're like, okay, this magic item, I'm gonna stick this in our game. And they're using detect magic because they're searching the room for chests. You can easily just search for an alchemy jug or whatever the magic item is, and it will pull it up, and it will give you all that information for that item as well, which
Perfect.
is really, really nice.
All right. So the next thing we want to talk about, moving off of that,
there's one more 5e item.
Yes. So the other thing that the thing we want to talk about when you're designing a game and when you're about getting ready to run a campaign, you certainly what are you doing now? Oh, this is the magic items?
This is the next one.
Okay.
Yeah, I have another generator.
Another one?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, go for it.
See, you tried to make me cut down my list. It just wasn't happening.
Sorry, go ahead.
This is another awesome generator. I have to show this one, where you can choose any preset. You can choose village, small town, large town, and then it will generate items for that shop, and you can actually save this shop and you can do, like, change the markup, and you can name it, and you can come back to it, which is really nice. One of my favorite aspects of this is there's a sanity category. So if it's like a super powerful item or you know, like legendary or something, it will have like the game changing category attached to it, which basically is saying this will significantly impact your game and or game world in some way. And I love that as well. But again, just another great, these are 3 tools that I love by 5e Magic Shop. Great guy, has a Patreon. Yeah.
Go check it out. So one thing that we when you're running a campaign and when you're starting it up, I'm sure many of you have heard of it, and it's something that is very important to us and important to us as players, is safety tools, and having those discussions during your session 0 and all of that. So important to us. It's very, very important. It's very important for all of you as individuals who are playing the game to know where the lines are, where are your boundaries. That way you can have fun in a way that is comfortable for everyone at your table. And so what do we use for that? So we use, it's by I hope I'm saying this, Monty. It's either Monty Cook Games or Mont Cook Games. But it is an RPG consent checklist. Basically, you give this to your players, and they go through and they check either green, yellow, or red on, you know, sensitive subjects. You don't know what people have been through. You don't know you don't know everything about their story, and you know, they might not want to have any kind of heavy disease in their game. Yeah, we all have our limitations. And we all have our places that are just a step too far. And when you're a DM, you need to know what those things are. Even if this is a private checklist that you give to your players individually, if you want to discuss it as a group, but you want to make sure that your players at least have this opportunity. It's important for you as the DM. It's important for them as the players. This RPG consent checklist is over on montycookgames.com. It's a free download. You do have to go to their store and do all that stuff, but it is available for free. You can download that, and it's wonderful when you're designing a campaign and getting ready to run with your party.
I think what I love most about it is the green, yellow, and red. It's not just so black and white, like hard no, hard yes. The yellow basically says, okay if veiled off stage. Might be okay on stage, but it requires discussion ahead of time. So, like, if you're, there's so many times in a game where you will stumble upon, you know, bandits had slaughtered some camp of people, right? And maybe, like, that, you know, that entire event happened off screen. But there's the occasional time where you might have a moment where that might happen on screen. Like, is that okay, or does that need to always stay off screen? It's just a really great way to respect your players and get that all out before you begin this long campaign, and you don't want to generate any problems down the road. And we love this. We actually use this for Fate's End.
We sure did. So now that you've got kind of the broad world with this wilderness and trap generators from Kassoon, and you have the magic items that are coming from 5e Magic Shop and all those individual stores that you've got. You've gone over the safety stuff with your players. The last thing that we want to talk about is the Session 0 workbook over on Ink and Lyre.
Yes, another plug, right?
And then, Lauren, this one's really kind of your baby. You kind of wrote this whole thing, didn't you?
I did. I wrote all 24 pages.
24 pages, because the players are the story. Yes. Like, they're the driving force in your story, and they need to be heroic and put in front and center, right?
Yes. So again, this is something that we offer for free on our Patreon. You can download it. It's not for everyone. If you are a very thorough DM and you want to pre-prep for a campaign, and you are the most thorough of people, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. There are worksheets that you hand out to your players so that will help them create. Like, if you have a player that isn't really familiar with character creation, like, they can go through this checklist, like, okay, what kind of personality? And there's just lists of personality traits. Are they, you know, boastful? Are they shy? And it really helps you as a DM help your players create their characters. But also there's a thoroughness to, you know, explaining the backstories and and working with your player one-on-one and explaining the world that this game is going to take place in. It's just very, very thorough, and gives you that foundation to stand on, so that if you've never DM'd before, you have that nice little reference to look back at. And I feel like it's kind of like a security blanket almost, for lack of a better word here. But yes, perfect for thorough DMs.
So we'll go ahead and when this live stream ends, we'll go ahead and put all these links, I guess, in the description if we can, or something like that. We'll get a way to get them to you, but it's 5e Magic Shop, Monte Cook Games, and then Kassoon, and of course our stuff. So check those out if you're interested, and if you're looking to start a new campaign, this is something that's really going to help you set your story apart from everyone else's, and maybe take a little workload off of you as we go.
And I've spoke to some DMs who, like, they just used parts of it. There was one DM that I spoke to that only used the character creation portion of it. They didn't use the world building stuff because they were working from Storm King's Thunder, or like a pre-built world.
They were doing an adventure module, yeah.
So there wasn't a need to kind of build that out as much because it was already there. But yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So very nice. All right. So, of course,
let's transition
here to Iron Valor. That we launched it. It was exciting and amazing. We launched that last Wednesday. And again, thank you so much for everyone's participation who was there. We had some technical difficulties. It was our first multicam stream though, so, and as 2020 would have it, Streamlabs went down.
Yes, we found out that the
server went down.
Part of the reason the coins weren't going out in the beginning was because literally Streamlabs, their servers were down, and it was just, it's 2020. That is what it is.
I'm not surprised anymore, right?
Right.
But yeah, let's get a recap of what happened. There was a lot. There was a lot.
There was. So we had 6 party members come into the battle. They fought this young red dragon who had a few extra homebrew stuff with legendary actions thrown in. I thought it was going to be I thought it was going to be a good fight. I thought a few players would drop, but somehow there were just a few good rolls, and a few things went, counter to what the dragon wanted, with some sentinel action, and then a natural 20 on the ballista by our good Brandon coming in there, just dealing, like, I think he took out
the ballista incorporation.
Yeah, I like that too.
It was very like smog.
Yes, just lining it up,
and and scorpion.
Yes, absolutely. And so that natural 20, I think it took like 25% of the dragon's health down. That was an incredible moment, especially in that early phase 1. We had our other guest player, Raina. She played a wonderful little deep gnome and dropped it all on us. Like, I didn't know, no one knew, none of the players. Dropped it. This hush deep gnome rogue had its mouth sewn shut all the way through. No one knew about it. Just dropped this on the very end. It was wonderful. Everyone loved it. It was a great time. And in the end, Team Hush, which was our rogue and the bard, and I think James was on the team, so the fighter. The 3 of them got together, and they were victorious over Team Narnia because they were all these beastie races and things like that. So one thing I was really impressed with was the heat metal spell on that Bastion homebrew class. Just really kind of changed the game for us. That was really cool. It was super fun. We aired that Wednesdays at 7:30. So really a lot of fun. I was really happy with it. For sure.
So tell me 1 or 2 things that stood out in the show that you really enjoyed, or things that you think led to the victory of Team Hush.
Yeah, I think we had what I am considering to be a very balanced group this time. We had 2 full casters, 1 on each team, and then 4 martial classes. And with virtually...
I was so sad when Uguay died. Oh, it wasn't Uguay. It was
not Uguay. Tortuga Master or something. Master Turtle.
Master Tortuga or something.
But we had
He was
four martial characters and two spellcasters, and it was even split down the middle. And I was really happy with that. I wanted to see what happened. I think our spellcasters really kind of changed the battle in a way that if they had played their roles differently, it would have gone the other direction. Particularly, so Davis and Dylan, shout out to both of you for doing terrific. Cleric and Bar, both kind of support casters, really enhance the martial capabilities of everyone else, particularly that heat metal spell from Davis, and then Dylan coming in there, and when that radiance doing all that area effect damage, I think that really changed the game. And then I think the biggest difference was they knew they couldn't do anything with that, homebrew Bastion class, so it seemed intentional. But the fighters, so James and Davis, seemed to want to have the fight where they knew AoE spells were going to be going off. And because they knew where that was really kind of the way they were defending it. And it got to a point where it was easier for the AoE to hurt them than it was for them. And so smartly, they chose the area of battle well. And then by being adjacent to that portal and also close enough to the AoE. So
and then Davis was rocking a cowboy hat. So.
He was. So I think those two things went really, really well. And that I guess in previous test plays we never really had the where the fight happened didn't matter as much, and I was really pleased with the way everyone fought, and I was so happy with it. There was a lot of talk about the Bastion class that we had our dear friend Max play. And we brought him in because I wanted to talk with him a little bit about what this class is.
I think a lot of people in chat have.
I think a lot of people
were like, what is Bastion? What is Bastion?
And I think that's kind of the beauty of Iron Valor is that you can have these unique homebrew classes and unique stuff and really kind of see how it plays out. Because like I've never had the opportunity to play an Unearthed Arcana character. Well, I had one.
I have.
But really, unless you happen to be starting a campaign or you're running a one shot when Unearthed Arcana comes out, there's never really a good time to officially run it yourself. And Iron Valor provides that for players.
It's a great play tester too. Like
certainly, especially the combat aspects.
In your campaign, like I played the School of Invention, a wizard School of Invention, Unearthed Arcana, and did not work out. It did not. I was like, please let me change it, Daniel, please.
Yeah. So let's talk about that Bastion class. Let's bring Max in.
Yeah, let's bring him in.
Say, hello, Max.
Hello, how's it going?
Hey Max, welcome. Real quick, if you don't mind, kind of tell everybody who you are and what you do, and then we'll go from there and get into this a little bit.
All right. So my name is Max. First off, you mentioned me several times. I like to do a lot of D&D. I DM a couple of campaigns, and I'm in a couple of campaigns on the side. Iron Valor is definitely one of my favorite things that I've ever done in D&D in general, just because it's so unique and so fun to do. It's just like a pick up and play thing. You get to try whatever you want. If it doesn't work out, that's fine. Everybody has a good time anyways. But yeah, it has the most experimentation out of anything I've ever done. So I really, really enjoy that aspect of it for sure.
So tell us about the Bastion class. I know a lot of people have a lot of questions about that, and they want to know a little bit more. How is it different from, say, like a paladin or a fighter or a barbarian? Yeah, barbarian. Yeah, for a second, I thought I said Barbara.
Mm-hmm.
And then, why do you think it deserves its own class?
So the Bastion is a very unique thing that I found online. One of my players asked me if he could get so he had never played D&D before. He asked me what would be like the best way to get like a really tanky character, and I was like, well, that'd probably be either a barbarian or a paladin. But then I did some research, I did some digging, and I found this class online. Um, it's kind of a blend of both, if I had to describe it, but it is definitely unique in that it's got all these abilities, but none of them are focused around dealing damage. All of them are around support, taking hits, absorbing damage, really trying to be as tanky as possible. So like I've never ever seen another class that has Constitution as its main stat. Like barbarians, you could build it that way, or paladins, maybe you could build it that way. But this one is definitely recommends using Constitution as your main stat, and it makes sense because all the abilities are boosted by your Constitution score. Um, if I had to describe it in terms of other classes, it would probably be like a Bastion, or the Bastion would probably be like a barbarian mixed with a paladin. And it's very like MMO RPG style. Uh, it's like it's designed to really sink in there, hold its ground, give your allies more armor, block hits for people. It's really really cool in how it does that, and I think it's very unique, definitely in that aspect of it.
I definitely agree with that. It's one of those. It's this really strange, barbarian paladin kind of baby that you might have here, and it's such a cool thing because, it's so really really good at this one thing. Like
Yes.
it's in the same way that in a way it reminds me of Wizard, in the sense that wizards are really really good at only spell casting.
Okay, I was wondering where you were going with
yeah,
this. I was
so
like,
they're really really good at that arcane recovery.
Constitution main stat
Yeah.
wizard.
It's like opposite. So it's like your AC is going to be really high and your damage is going to be really good, but you're really not going to hit hard. And so you've got what you have is a fish. Like you don't have a creature that can. It's like a dog can run and swim, and you have.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and then you have animals that can fly and walk, but this is a fish. It only swims, but it's really, really good at it. And that's all it does. And so I think it's a really, really cool homebrew class, even if it's definitely broken for sure.
You did have to.
Yeah, we now to be fair, there's a Bastion class that's available. We'll link that as well if we can. But we actually tweaked it significantly for this, just so that it would come a little bit more into play with what 5e normally is. So when people are coming to play Iron Valor, we want them to play interesting builds and things that inspire them. So many people have reference characters from works of fiction that inspire them to play their classes. So what inspired you to want to play a Bastion? Is there someone or a specific character in fiction that you enjoy, that you are inspired by to play this, or why did you want to do this?
Yeah, so probably my biggest inspiration would be like playing tanks in games that are like video games. Definitely, Reinhardt from Overwatch, he's like a huge inspiration for it. Just like having this meaty armored clad giant that's there purely to take hits. Like he can hit things if he needs to, but like his main purpose and goal is to be there and support his team. And I really like that's my favorite thing about games like with strategy like that, where you can have a tank. I love being a tank. I just like to be able to be out there in the middle of it, absorbing hits, taking the damage from my friends. If I had to pick one person, it would definitely be Reinhardt.
For sure. I've never played Overwatch. Have you done Overwatch before?
I've watched people play it, but I've never played it. It does look like fun. There's like an Egyptian healing person. Pretty cool. And I think a lot of people like her.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how do you think this class compared to the other players at the table, both from a power level and a playability standpoint?
So yeah, this is where I have like my biggest issue with the Bastion class, as it's written online, especially. It's a really cool idea and it has so much potential. But how it was written, and made is like it's really difficult to balance, especially because it seems like they were making for something other than 5e, or maybe they just weren't really familiar with how 5e power balances. Although I did some research recently and I saw that it was intended for 5e, it is homebrew. But it's like all the abilities that it has in the source are either like crazy strong or they're really wimpy. So like it's kind of a give and take with all that. The idea of a tower shield, which is like also homebrew, is really cool because it gives you partial cover if you're not moving, and it gives you three-quarters cover if you decide to dig in, because it's like a big old shield and you can use it to sink in. Um, the tower shield that I found online, which I'm pretty sure is the same one that they wanted to use, you get disadvantage on your attack rolls, but Bastion ignores that because it's their whole thing is to use the big shield. Um, I really want to try and fix it up if I can. I kind of want to like add on to it or improve it, because as it is, like the only good subclass that it has is Fortress, and Fortress is the one where you get these cool abilities, like you heal your allies and give them advantage on attack rolls. You give them more armor class if they're near you. Um, for example, there's like, I forget exactly what it's called. Let me find it real fast. It's called the Crusher. So the Crusher is another subclass that's on Bastion. They have this thing called a spin attack. It's just like really stupid. Like the other subclasses are not nearly as good. There's a Templar of Steel, which is basically just a paladin with a big shield. So I'd like to try and redesign these. Maybe throw in an extra attack for one of them and try and see how it goes. I definitely have to talk to Daniel before I used it in the arena, but like I want to put some time and effort because I think this class has very much potential. It just kind of like it really faltered in the battle, especially versus like real 5e classes.
Yeah, it almost felt like it was too strong and too weak at the same time. Now
Exactly.
you said you DM for a player that has this. Are you finding those same sorts of problems with the player that you DM for, or is it kind of balanced out when it's all monster fighting and not PvP? So I guess the question is like, is does it seem to work okay in a campaign format as opposed to just this PvP that we're doing here?
So it's kind of actually the same as it was in Iron Valor in that it's like too strong at some things and too weak at other things. It's really difficult to balance just in general. Like especially there's this ability that I've used a couple times in the arena. It was called Call to Arms, where you're supposed to like heal your allies over in the original writing, you actually heal them over a certain amount of turns based on your con mod, and it's just like it's not that much healing, but it's a constant healing. So like it's impossible to knock somebody down if it's going on for that long, because they'll just get right back up at the start of their turn. So like that ability in particular is just I've had to nerf it extremely. Um, and other stuff is kind of okay. Like being able to add armor class to your friends is very useful, and it's actually kind of fun to have. Otherwise, you'd just be taking hits all the time. But in an actual campaign setting, yeah, it needs work. It definitely needs work.
Yeah, I think it does too, and I think what it really lacks is there's all these core abilities that go along with each of the individual D&D classes. Like you get uncanny dodge, you get cunning action, you have rage, you have arcane recovery, like all these clear cut, powerful single, or I guess they're not really like capstone classes, but they're primary abilities. And it seems like the Bastion doesn't really have that fit somewhere. So to me, it feels like a subclass of either fighter or barbarian. I think you could make some sort of Bastion fighter that kind of fit into that mold and could take the defense action or defense proficiency, but it needs that one. It needs something to tweak it to make it a viable class. A viable subclass for maybe a different class, or it needs that primary ability to really make it something that's fun. So, last question, Lauren.
Yes. So, considering how the Bastion played in the last Iron Valor fight and the concept of these characters, what sort of background would you bring to a Bastion in a long-term campaign?
So that's a pretty good question. Um, in the campaign that I'm running, it's kind of more like a silly version because it's made with a bunch of friends that just want to like hang out. Um, But for an actual like serious campaign with like some in-depth stuff, I feel like there's not it would almost certainly be a soldier of some kind. A soldier that has been like fighting on the front lines for a long time. He's always had his comrades by his side. He's always used to like doing some good hard cut formations, you do this, I do that, charge. Um Probably for personality aspects, I'd say quiet, resigned, just there to take beatings, get it over with.
Quiet, resigned, here to beat up everybody. That's pretty much how it goes.
Like a Leonidas or Spartan of some sort, maybe.
Yep. Did you have fun playing the class, Max?
Yes, definitely.
Would you play it again?
If I could refine it and like, make something better that we can both agree on, definitely, for sure.
All right, that sounds about right. I agree. Thank you so much, Max, for coming in here and talking about this. I think that Bastion class, it has so much to do, but that's what Iron Valor is for, to test these things out and show them off. So I dropped a link to that Bastion class as it's written on the D&D wiki. So everyone can go look at that if you wish and consider it if you want. You saw how it was there. So if you want to be the defense-oriented, reserved, powerful dude in your campaign, certainly give that option. Go look. Thank you so much, Max. Is there anywhere that we can send people for you? Anything you'd like to plug before you get out of here?
I do have a YouTube channel if you want to plug that. It's called Panda Juice Games. And I do gaming stuff. So like video games, all that kind of good stuff. If you want to watch that, check it out.
Thank you for joining, Matt. Yeah, we do have your handle up on screen for everyone to see. And they and yeah, definitely check him out. He plays games, and thank you again.
Thanks, Max. All right, so Max Morin, everybody at Panda Juice Games, coming in here and hanging out with us. So thank you so much for that. You'll see him in further episodes of Iron Valor. He'll be one of those players that rotates through and is in with us very often. So hopefully next time, maybe we'll get some activity there that isn't just exclusively this homebrew stuff, and we'll see what Max comes up with his next character. So
yeah,
that's it.
Leonin.
Yes. That brings us around to the mailbag. Yeah? You're gonna do the thing?
It's time for the mailbag.
Beautiful. All right.
Oh my.
It was gorgeous. We got a real late mailbag in over there on our Instagram. We asked individuals on our Instagram about homebrew classes they had played in their games. So if you guys have played any homebrew classes in your game or any Unearthed Arcana and stories you want to share, go ahead and put those in the chat, and we'll talk about those as well. I had the opportunity to play an Unearthed Arcana, like barbarian cult. I played the Path of the Beast.
That's right. You did. You said you didn't, but you did.
Well, I said I played it. Well, I said I didn't, and I was like, well, maybe one time. And
yeah.
I played as this character Colt. He was a half elf.
I loved Colt.
Cryptozoologist. No one else liked Colt. He was not a part of the party very long.
Well, they just didn't. He was misunderstood.
Misunderstood is a good way to put it.
It was so sad. He had such a sad backstory.
He did, but he had this whole thought that he was the only one of his kind because he had these raging claws and a tail that would come out, the snout that was that Unearthed Arcana Path of the Beast, and he was just he was an interesting character for what we gave him. And what I really liked about that was that it was that we took Colt and we gave him a background that was really explicitly built for the Unearthed Arcana. Because, like, I think if you're going to play a UA class or a homebrew class, you're doing it because you want your background to affect that.
Yes.
Like,
at least you hope.
Yeah, because you could have
Some
played.
players just want to play some crazy
Yeah,
class.
if you got a basic background, like just play champion fighter, you'll be okay. You'll do really well. You'll roll okay, or play a bard. You'll be the skill monkey, and it'll be all right. Have that have the best mechanical class you can, and then let your background be what it is. So what I really liked about Cult is that we built the background for the UA, and I really had a good time with it. You said you had one as well that you played.
Yes, so that was in your game, Raymarith. She was a wizard, school of invention. School of invention, that was it. And the concept sounded really cool because the main thing that I loved about it was that you could reckless cast. So you would have this reckless casting table, and you could be like, all right, I'm reckless casting at 2nd level. And so you would roll a die, you would roll 2 die, and you would get to choose from the 2 spells that you chose, or the 2 spells that you rolled on the table. Or if you rolled a 10, you get to cast, like if you rolled a 10, because it's a D10 table, you get to roll again, and you get to cast both spells. Mm-hmm. So that sounds really cool and everything, but this is the problem that ended up setting in place was, one, occasionally you would get 2 spells that were terrible.
They just weren't good for
like
the situation.
Darkness and stinking cloud or something, or fog or something, or it just like you would get stuff like that, and I would look at Daniel and I'd be like, I have to cast that, don't I? And yeah, you have to cast that.
Like you already said you're casting it.
It's true. Now I have to cast that. So it became more of a hindrance and didn't help at all than helping. And then
but you got to cast levels, like you get to cast 3rd level spells with a 2nd level slot.
Yeah,
right?
Or like spells that you didn't have prepared. The idea is that you're reckless casting to access a spell that you don't have prepared.
It's like trying to build IKEA furniture without the instructions.
I don't know if I would say that.
Just throwing stuff together.
The last straw was a pretty intense fight with a guy that we had been chasing down for a while, and I rolled twice, and I think it was like I cast Fireball
and Sleet Storm,
and no, it was like Fog or Sleet Storm, and I couldn't see in front of me. So Daniel basically ruled that
it was not good.
It wasn't good.
It wasn't good. So
I could only see in front of me, right? So I basically made myself explode.
So the another one that we play in our games, or another one that we got in from Instagram, came from Kieran Quinlan 7. Says, I once played an awakened horse, and my party rigged an election in town so that I became mayor.
See, this sounds like a quirky group.
That's certainly a quirky group.
That sounds like that's probably like the least crazy thing that they've done.
That's one of. I've always thought it would be fun, because this sounds super cool. Just playing a horse, like getting out there and doing stuff. I've always thought it would be fun to play just like a regular dude, like.
Oh, yes, I remember this.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this concept. Yes.
Yeah, I've always thought it would be super fun, like not a character class or anything like that, but like give him like half proficiency in everything. Give him a D12 and give him like proficiency with all the tools. So you made this character that like had like straight base 10 stats.
Superpowers that he has no superpowers, and he thinks that he's special and the chosen one.
Yeah, he thinks
he's not.
He thinks he's a superhero, but he's literally just like
he's just some average guy,
a regular dude. And you scale him up, but like he doesn't have any abilities. He doesn't have any like class levels, none of that stuff. He gets his proficiency bonus, and I guess he's using weapons, but he's just some dude out there who
He's
doesn't
just a
have
really good bartender.
Yeah, he's just really good at this, and
He knows how to juggle really well too.
and in the same vein as this, where it's just like an awakened horse. There's just some guy who's just there, but around. So I've always thought that would be a lot of fun, or playing like a dog in the party. I've always thought that would be fun.
Playing a dog.
Yeah, just being a dog.
Like an animagus or something.
Yeah, for sure.
But not a druid. There's a difference.
So Davis Walker 554 is talking about a UA character that he played. It was a UA changeling. It says, I like the reaction, unsettling visage, which reveals your shape-shifting nature but enforces disadvantage. Really compelling to reveal your secrets for mechanical use. Haven't seen that anywhere else. And then, which is a super duper cool way to do it. Because I think if you're like, that's another example of using UA to reinforce your character and having your background be important for choosing this UA stuff. And this is back before Eberron Rising from the Last War came out, and Changeling was still a UA. So this was a while back. And
that was a really great character that really immersed in that, where he had shifting, just brilliant character creation. And I hope it's okay that we talk about Bistro for a second here. Based on this class, or this race, where he was a changeling and he had like multiple personalities as a changeling. And then each personality had a different physical appearance that would appear. And he basically took his character and boxed in emotions into different personalities. So he had a personality for sadness and anger, and I can't remember the others, but just beautiful like character concept that was so much fun to roleplay with and interact with.
Yes. And you'll get to see, it was a dangerously depressing character and just broken in all the best ways. And you'll get to see more of that in Fate's End, because Davis Walker is going to be playing in our, obviously he's in Iron Valor, and then you'll see him as well in Fate's End coming up on September 7th. Got some honorable mentions here for Way of the Mercy Monk and Oath of the Watcher Paladin from Spell Component.
I remember, because I think this was mentioned, this Way of the Mercy. I don't know about Oath of the Watchers, but I feel like I remember Spell Component bringing up Way of the Mercy before. We have moths in our...
We do, but
They're
it's okay.
Swarming. If I'm not mistaken, that was had a healer aspect to it.
Yeah, it's a healing monk, yeah. And it's counterintuitive to what monks really should be. So I think that's why it's going to remain UA, I'm sure. But yeah, so super fun. I think that's going to about wrap it up for us.
Yes.
So thank you guys so much for watching. We want to try and keep these down to about an hour. So keep an eye on our Instagram story for all the questions that you may want to have out there.
We ask every week. We'll ask another question that we'll talk through on Short Rest, and you can reply to our story or send us a direct message, and we'll talk about it. Yeah,
we'll bring it in the mailbag. If you have questions about things that you're going on in your game and you want us to answer them on stream, we'll certainly do that. If you're not already following, please do so. That certainly helps us. I think we actually just went over 50 followers, so that's really, really good for us. That's kind of a benchmark number in stream and in Twitch, so that's really good for everything we want to do going forward. So thank you so much
for your support. Yes,
thank you for supporting the stream. We really appreciate that. And we will see you Wednesday at 7:30
for our next episode of Iron Valor. That's my intense man voice.
I know. I think we're gonna go play some D&D. So
yeah, we're gonna go play some D&D.
Yeah, we will.
We have a massive, large-scale battle to undergo. So
y'all go have a good evening.
Bye, guys.